The Epstein case is about to crack wide open. In a major legal development, a federal judge in New York has ordered the unsealing of grand jury materials from the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime confidant and convicted accomplice. Judge Paul Engelmeyer ruled that the Justice Department can publicly release grand jury transcripts, exhibits, and a massive trove of investigative documents that until now have been kept permanently secret. This comes after the Justice Department formally requested access, citing a new law passed by Congress, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which President Donald Trump signed last month. Under normal circumstances, grand jury materials never see the light of day. They are sealed forever. But Engelmeyer wrote that the new law does apply here, clearing the way for disclosure of potentially thousands of pages of previously unseen records, including materials turned over to Maxwell's defense during her 2021 trial.
On the Epstein files, does the new investigation by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney prevent the department from releasing all of the remaining files?
So we have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
What are the next steps, Madam Attorney General, for the DOJ regarding what we assume President Trump will sign into law with the Epstein files? Is this going to be on the Justice Department website? What are you doing here over the next 30 days, as we understand it?
We will continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims.
When you say follow the law, Madam Attorney General, do you mean that you will provide all the files by 30 days?
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
The issue with the new information that you just indicated, is the department seeking information perhaps from the Epstein estate, because Mr. Blanche did not have that information when he interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell? What new information, and would you limit the new investigation to just those named persons that the president talked about, or is this a broad, open-ended investigation?
I would refer to the Deputy Attorney General's post that he put out on X, and we're not going to say anything else on that because now it is a pending investigation in the Southern District of New York. But you're on point. Hard stop. One more question? Sure.
President Trump has previously said that he may consider authorizing military strikes within Mexico to go after cartels. Given the importance of this case, I'm wondering if the DOD has been engaged on the search for rivals.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss anything with the Department of War right now, but right now I will tell you it is the Treasury Department, the State Department, our office, the FBI, working with Canadian authorities and working with the Mexican authorities hand in hand.
He's actually the second judge to authorize this. Just last week, a federal judge in Florida agreed to unseal documents from a separate abandoned federal grand jury investigation into Epstein from the early 2000s. So what does this mean? For the first time, the public may soon see witness testimony, evidence from federal investigators, previously confidential exhibits, and internal investigative material that prosecutors never released. A separate DOJ request to unseal records from Epstein's 2019 case is still pending. If approved, that would trigger a third massive release of documents, potentially the most explosive batch yet.
Statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us. Mary.
Thank you, Ghislaine. Two questions on this. In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump, as we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
But given your interest in transparency, Caroline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency. Having discussions with members of Congress about various issues, and I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room in the press briefing room. Reagan.
I have a question about the government shutdown.
Thank you.
The Middle East.
I'm glad someone does.
First, on the government shutdown, the shutdown deal reverses the administration's reps, and it also prohibits more from happening until the end of January. I'm wondering if the president had input on this element of the deal, and if he's at all disappointed that's going to reverse the downsizing of the federal government that they did during the shutdown.
I mean, look, I think it's about 6,000 workers total. When you look at that in comparison to the reduction in the federal workforce that this administration has done since January to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and to reduce the size of our federal bureaucracy, we've done a lot of great work on that front, and we will continue to. But obviously, the president's main priority was to reopen the federal government and get people back to work, and that's what this deal accomplishes.
Caroline, there's been reports in Israeli media that the U.S. is considering building a temporary military base on the Gaza border. Can you confirm these reports?
So I had a conversation directly with the reporter who wrote this article, and this article was based on a single piece of paper, an inquiry that somebody in the Department of Navy made about an idea that may happen in the future. And this reporter deemed that as an official plan and ran with a story that the United States is looking into it. I checked with the highest levels of the United States federal government. This is not something the United States is interested in being engaged in. It's not something we are currently involved in right now that we will be funding. And the president has been very clear he doesn't want to see boots on the ground with respect to what's happening in the Middle East. We've made great peace. We've made great progress with the peace plan in Gaza, and we want to continue to see that move forward. But I put a comment in that story for a reason. And sometimes we see reporters take a piece of paper like this and just deem it as official policy, and sometimes that misleads people a little bit. Sure.
There's been a question about UK intelligence sharing regarding the drunk interdictions involving Venezuelan boats. How will that affect the U.S. military operation? There's been a lot of discussion about the high caliber of the intelligence that has been provided before any of these military actions have taken place.
I've seen that report. Oh, hello. I've seen that report. I'm familiar with the reporting, but we don't comment on intelligence matters, classified intelligence matters, as you know. As for the Trump administration's position on our narco-terrorist campaign in the Caribbean, it is going to continue, and the president has made it very clear he's not going to allow terrorists to bring illegal drugs that kill American citizens into our great country.